everyone, welcome to Unwell and Unfiltered, the podcast where we talk about mental health, spill some tea, and remind you that it's okay not to be okay. I'm Arthi,
And I'm Via.
fellow humans navigating this wild thing we call life.
We think it's not only important, but essential to talk about mental health and shed light on resources that could be helpful for people going through tough situations. So, whether you're thriving, surviving, or somewhere in between, you're in the right place. We're all about keeping it unwell and unfiltered.
So, buckle up and let's get into it. Today's topic is when your friend's partner is the problem. With it being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we're going to talk about a unique perspective that hits home for lots of people. I know sometimes we forget to do this, but to give a formal trigger warning, our episode will contain topics of domestic abuse and physical violence.
And I'm sure lots of us have been in situations where we've seen our friends or family stay with someone who is absolutely terrible for them. But what do we do when we have friends that clearly need to leave their partner, but they refuse to, thus continuing the cycle of abuse? Because you see the red flags, I see the red flags, you also see the emotional damage, and I see the emotional damage, and we both want to scream, why are you still with them? It's just so frustrating because it's like watching your friend being set on fire with no way to put them out. And you really can't blame them either because they clearly need help. But, you know, what can you do? You don't teach someone how to swim when they're drowning, you know?
Dude, yes, that's actually so true. When someone's drowning, you just focus on what they need, the rescue. You don't sit there and tell them, hey, this is how you swim, by the way. But yeah, I definitely have been in the situation before where I see a friend with a really difficult partner. And did you know that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime? Like, even outside of physical abuse, emotional manipulation and control are way more common than we think. Either you want to say something, but you fear that it's going to blow up, or you stay quiet and you let it stew in your brain. It's such a tough situation to be in the middle of because you're watching someone you love slowly disappear in a relationship that's eating them alive. And you might feel lots of emotions like feeling helpless or feeling angry, scared, or guilty. So, now what?
And let me just say, that's so deep because I have watched so many of my friends disappear into their relationship. And I understand that it's natural for someone to spend most of their time with their partner, but what's not normal is them completely going from a friend to someone you once knew, right?
Right, like you're not even like the same person. Like you're someone I used to know. Like you're not even like
Like they're there, but they're not there. Like we would talk, but it feels like hollow. But let's pause for a second. Let's pause for a second though. Before we go any deeper, I just want to clarify that your friend isn't stupid or anything like that because they decide to stay even after all of the abuse. They're just surviving the only way they know how, like a lot of people. And sometimes people stay in unhealthy relationships or abusive relationships for a lot of reasons. And one of the biggest reasons is fear, just fear of retaliation. Like, what if they speak up and things get worse? Or fear of being alone, which I know a lot of people struggle with feelings of loneliness,
mm-hmm.
and also fear of the unknown. Because starting over can feel terrifying, and maybe some people even stay exactly who they are because they fear of
Like
the unknown.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like change. Like they structure their entire personality around this identity, and to start over or step outside of that identity just feels scary, feels unknown. And even if you know logically that leaving is the healthier choice, emotionally it just feels impossible.
Exactly. And then there's trauma bonding. That's when emotional highs of the honeymoon phase, which are like all the moments when they feel loved or connected, actually help them stay attached to someone who's actually also hurting them. Their brain starts to link love and pain together, which makes leaving feel unsafe or even unthinkable.
Yes, and also self-worth plays a huge role too. People might feel like they're not good enough, which I feel like a lot of people struggle with feeling not good enough.
Hmm.
Yeah, like they don't deserve better, and that can make someone accept mistreatment or even put up with behaviors that would be unacceptable to most. Their inner voice have been trained to believe that they have to tolerate this and that they're lucky to even get love at all. And I know a lot of people in their childhood when they are like kind of like starved of love, when they do get kind of like a little bit of love or a taste of love, that can keep them hooked and keep coming for more in a way.
Right, for sure. And finally, there's practical things too, like finances and like living situations or children. Like if you have a family, your finances are completely intertwined. Maybe you rely on your partner for money or housing or childcare, and leaving isn't just an emotional hurdle, but it's also a logistical one. And so you can see why staying sometimes feels like it's the only option, even if it's not the healthiest option.
Right. And in this economy, oh my gosh, I kind of understand like if you leave, then it's like, oh crap, I have to like take on a lot of things. Am I even good enough to do all that? Like that's when the self-worth comes into. But it doesn't have to be like one reason either. It could be a combination of things keeping them in that relationship. And it's very, very, very heartbreaking to watch someone we love feel so stuck, but also understanding all of these reasons can help us approach them with patience and empathy rather than judgment, right? Like it's not about enabling. It's just, like understanding that they're navigating a complex web of fear, love, and survival.
That is so true because let's be real, it can be easy in these kinds of situations to get frustrated with our friend, but sometimes they may not realize that it's abuse if it's emotional or psychological.
Yes, and I highly agree because some people really believe that normalcy means that things are okay, but just because it feels normal to you does not mean that it is not abuse. Abuse can be normalized too.
For sure, trauma literally distorts your perception of love. So, what looks like chaos from the outside might feel normal to someone who's lived in survival mode for years. But okay, so before we move on, I think it's super important to talk about some red flags or warning signs of emotional and psychological abuse. These can be subtle, and sometimes it's hard to see them when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, and honestly, even friends and family might not notice it at first. So let's just break down a few of the main ones and what they can look like in real life.
So, first up, we have isolation from friends and family. This one can start really small, like your partner saying things like, I just don't want you hanging out with them so much, or do you really need to see them tonight? And it slowly grows into cutting off your support system. It's a big warning sign because when someone's isolated and doing things like cutting off people who care about them, they become more dependent on the abuser.
That's a good one. It can be masked as concern, so it can definitely go under the is this abuse radar? And
Hmm.
that leads us to a similar one, which is criticism disguised as concern. This is when someone says, I'm just worried about you. That's why I told you not to wear that. Or I only said that because I care. On the surface, it might feel like love or care, but similarly to the first one, it chips away at your confidence over time and makes things confusing.
Yes, and there's also gaslighting or minimizing feelings. This one's really sneaky. It's when the abuser twists reality or denies your experiences. They might say things to you like, that never happened, or you're overreacting again. And it makes you question yourself and your memory, and honestly, sometimes even your sanity.
Oh my gosh, I hate that one. It's so draining and makes you doubt your own emotions and reality. Along with that one, another big one is financial control. And this one doesn't have to mean that they're rich or stingy. It can be as simple as tracking your spending, controlling the bills, or making you feel like you can't make decisions about your own money all by yourself. It's a huge way to trap someone because leaving feels impossible without financial independence.
I feel like that's like a way of making someone feel small. And we can't forget also extreme jealousy or possessiveness. A little jealousy is normal, but if someone's constantly checking your phone and telling you who you can or can't hang out with, or constantly needing updates on where you are, it's not love, it's control.
Yes, and like kind of like similar to the first one, or maybe is it the first one? The one where it's like masked as concern, like, or yeah, masked as concern.
Mm-hmm.
They're like appearing as if they're worried, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they're also probably they're doing this from a place of like trauma, like, oh, I've been cheated on, so I need to know who you're with, what you're doing. I need to know that you're not cheating on me. So, like, control doesn't always look like extreme jealousy or possessiveness either. They can also use threats or intimidation too, which is the last one on our list today, actually. This kind of control can show up in many ways without it having to be physical. So, emotional threats count, like, if you leave me, you'll regret it, or even using the silent treatment or yelling as ways to scare someone into compliance. It's like, at that point, it's about power and not love because someone who loves you would not need to threaten you or use silence to punish you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay if this feels heavy. It's supposed to, because when we recognize these signs, it's usually the first step in knowing when to protect yourself or someone safely, or support someone safely.
Here's something we don't talk about enough, and that's the cycle of abuse. It's not always obvious or violent. Sometimes it goes it goes like this. So, tension builds, there's an incident, and then there's the honeymoon phase. And then there's the calm before the storm, and then it repeats all over again. But with this cycle, you start to crave those calm moments, so you justify the abuse and you confuse guilt with loyalty.
Oh man, and you probably feel powerless and stuck in a loop trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved too, or just trying to save someone who doesn't know where to start when it comes to saving themselves. And that reminds me a lot of like ADHD paralysis. I think I said that right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because there are people who recognize that they're in an abusive situation and are struggling to reach out for help or do the inner work to be able to find the courage to walk away. And I want you to know that you are not a bad person for being tired of moving through same motions time and time again without seeing any progress. It can be so exhausting hearing the same thing or about the same person over and over again. Someone's emergency doesn't have to be yours. And maybe that sounds selfish, but it's not coming from a selfish place because you did try to help them. You coached them, you listened to them, you empathized, you planned, and probably did some legwork for them too, if I might say. And if you ask me, that's not selfish. Actually, it's far from being selfish. It just goes back to not abandoning yourself. Choosing yourself is not selfish, and helping is great, but you don't have to sacrifice yourself for others even if you want them to win. If you're pouring into someone's cup, but they have their lid on, what do you do in those instances? Do you keep pouring? Because I wouldn't, because their lid is on, and I don't want to waste water, and you don't want to waste water, so you know what I'm saying?
So why are we wasting water? Literally.
Yeah.
I literally love your analogies because that's literally so spot on. If you keep pouring when there's a lid on the cup, you're just going to spill water everywhere except for where you want it to go.
Yeah.
So like if what you're saying to these people is not reaching them, it's not selfish to take care of yourself and choose yourself and set those boundaries and, put yourself first in those moments.
Yeah, and I do get it though. Like, you can feel this internal conflict and start asking yourself questions like, if I walk away, am I abandoning them? Or if I stay, am I enabling this dynamic? There's just no right or wrong answer to the situation, right? So, although your friend is the one who is experiencing that pain, that person supporting them can also experience deep emotional pain too. And that deserves to be recognized.
For sure. And I feel like that's not talked about enough. Like, there's also this fear of what if something horrible happens and you weren't there? Or what if the situation escalates? Or what if you're the only person that they have? And this guilt plus the shame of feeling like you failed them can erase your boundaries and your sense of self. So we understand how it can put you in a tough spot for sure. It's as if you're being pulled in different directions emotionally and morally. And if you try to talk to an older adult about it, like I know for me, I've heard things like, that's their choice, or it's not abuse unless they hit you. But emotional abuse isn't any less real just because it doesn't leave physical bruises.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that communicating without guilt, comparing, or shaming is really important because there are people who do this unintentionally.
I am curious also to know, do you feel guilty as to what would happen if we just let our friends be in the relationship, like in this toxic relationship, and not do anything about it?
Oh my gosh. Yes, and definitely that guilt would eat me up at night because I would just be so worried, confused, and stressed out. Like, I had this one friend back in high school. She was my ride or die. I like loved her so deeply. And if you ask me today, I still love her so deeply and wish nothing but the best for her. I just want to put into perspective how close we were because I feel like the term ride or die is very loose because we were inseparable. We would go on many adventures together. I mean, we'd sneak out to go to all sorts of parties in the middle of the night. We'd pool hop with other friends in the middle of the night too, make music together, skip school to do spontaneous trips to DC or just wherever the wind took us, and just so much more. We even created a whole new language together just so we can pass notes in class. So if we got caught, no one would understand what we'd say. And I think I
That's
remember,
adorable.
thank you. Yeah, I remember her like sharing details of her abusive relationship in those messages. And I think that's why we created that language so that she could safely share what was going on in those relationships. So if her abuser found those notes, we she wouldn't get in trouble. He'd just be like, "Oh, what the heck?" But anyways, no one can really understand the depth of our connection anyway, and to describe our friendship is just really hard. And I think that's what made our friendship so beautiful in the first place. It just got to the point where we would communicate without speaking. Just one look, and we knew whether or not to leave a function or just start running. And she has such a kind and poetic heart. And I put this all into perspective because you hear this person, you see this person, and you hear that they're getting abused, and like this is where the powerless feelings come in because you want to save them. You see how amazing they are. You want to instill those feelings of being good enough and giving them that confidence
Mm-hmm.
to leave that relationship, but when someone's in that mind state, they just don't know how to leave. They see the abuse, they see the pain, they see the everything, but it's as if they're like immobilized. And one thing for certain is that she did not deserve that pain she was put through. There were just countless days and nights where she'd show up to my doorstep completely battered, and I'm talking about black eyes, puffy face, bruises all over her body from her boyfriend beating her.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and what she went through was beyond emotional abuse. And I've tried so many times to help her escape, and it didn't work. It just didn't work.
Hearing about people we love going through really tough situations and by people treating them so badly is really hard, and it probably took a lot out of you too. I'm sure you wanted to be there for her because you love her so much, but when things didn't work over and over, I can imagine it got to be pretty exhausting.
Oh my gosh, it was so tiring. I felt hopeless after years and years of trying. At this point, I'm just like, was it a trauma bond? Was it even like I don't know. Like I feel like the way we even connected was very like trauma bondy, but that's we could talk about that in a different episode. Anyways, there was this one time her boyfriend accidentally hung out with a friend who lived across the street from me while she was hanging out with me at my house, and she saw
Mm.
his car, so naturally she went to find him, and things just got heated. I don't know, an argument broke out in front of my house. I guess someone lied about where they were. Anyways, at this time, our firstborns were 1 or 2 years old, just around that age. I just remember holding her child while trying to console my own child from all the screaming and threats going outside of my house. And I'm just like, hey kids, like, don't worry, like, it was just like, oh, they're just talking, like, 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 I'm just like, trying to keep these kids calm. And I remember that day so vividly because something switched off in me. I just realized that not only is this impacting me, but it is also impacting my child. I just could not put her through that because of the long term psychological effects it could have on her. Kids are like sponges, they just absorb everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a parent, I'm sure that like you're always thinking about your kids' best interests. And in that moment, you just knew that this was not it.
No, it was not. It's one thing for me to be in that situation because I know how to handle myself. But watching the innocence get ripped away from my daughter was just the last straw. She literally just got here. She just logged in. She, when she was born, I promised myself that I'd take good care of her, and being around this situation completely contradicted everything I strived for. And
Hmm.
the guilt still remains, though, till this very day. I had to walk away. It was probably one of the hardest things I had to do. I had to choose between saving a friend who is clearly in danger and choosing my daughter and innocence. Clearly, I chose my daughter. But would you say that I'm being selfish for walking away from that friendship?
No, 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 absolutely not. Walking away from that friendship was not selfish. It was necessary, honestly, and it came from a place of love, not neglect. You were faced with an impossible situation of trying to support someone that you cared for and also trying to protect your own kid. And that's not abandonment, that's recognizing that your role as a parent has to come first. And the fact that you still carry that guilt shows how much you truly loved your friend. But you had to choose back. You had to choose to step back, and that doesn't erase that love. You were setting a boundary to protect yourself and your kid from being pulled into something traumatic and damaging. And that brings me back to my point about how boundaries don't come from a place of selfishness. They're an act of survival and care.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm looking back now, I'm like, it's the best decision I ever made because I just saved my daughter from developing a whole anxiety disorder.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't, I feel like being in those environments would definitely create some kind of anxious feelings in someone, but it just
Definitely
really,
not positive.
yeah, you can't be like around yelling, screaming, abuse and feel like, yeah, I'm great, I'm fine. No, like it
Right.
it really puts into perspective how it can impact the people trying to help the person involved in this like DV relationship. If anything, I feel like I failed her because I couldn't get her away, and I'm talking about my friend. And if she hates me, I totally understand. I mean, it got to the point where it was consuming my life. I was sacrificing time with my own child to try and save her from this relationship because remember, she showed up at my door
Right.
like at the most random times, like just crying, and I'm like, my daughter's here. I have to pause her And I had to take care of my friend, and we would not, it would just not be like, oh, hey, how are you? It was like me, like, talking to her for like for what felt like hours, and my daughter listening to those conversations, listening to those stories, and absorbing all of that information. And just it was just too much. It was just way too much.
So what happened after those like conversations that you would have with her?
Yeah, it was just those conversations just turned like she would cry, we would talk it out, we would smoke a J or some, and then we'd be vibing, and we would do like some kind of activity together. So it was like chill most of the time. Like I de-escalated her.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, after I spent practically my entire day consoling her and making, helping her feel better, giving her the pep talk of the century,
Mm-hmm.
she would immediately go back to that guy that just abused her, and then
Oh
go
my God.
literally, and then just ghost me for what it could be a day, it could be 2 days, it could be a week, it could be a month. I wouldn't even know if she was dead or alive. It just, I felt like I was, I don't know, just helping a wall. Like I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that's really mean to say, but it was just like if I called her or texted her, literally crickets. But if she called me, texted me, or showed up at my house, I just need to drop everything I'm doing just to cater her, like just to cater to her crisis. No, and I'd say like not only is that inconsiderate, but that's also a huge boundary issue.
That's like you were it's completely one-sided. Like you were putting in all of this effort and then when it came to you, she wasn't even there for you. And like not only that, but she's putting a strain on like the way you're parenting your children also. Like adding all that anxiety into the mix.
Yes.
Like it sounded like it was really a lot.
It was so much. It was like it felt like I was teaching my daughter how to be a people pleaser.
Oh,
Like after it
man.
got to the point, because like everything just went from like, oh, like today we're gonna go visit my friend, we're gonna go make her feel better, and I'm having to explain to my literal like 2 year old like, this is what's happening, this is what we're doing, we're gonna go get gifts to make her feel better. And it's just like we're just doing, our whole entire day was just structured around making her feel better. And that's where like it got too like, clearly it was too much, but it just felt overwhelming to the point where there's just constant heaviness in my stomach, and I'm sure my daughter could feel it too. And I
Hmm.
understand that my friend was in a really difficult position, and I could have probably been a better friend to her. But when you're supporting someone who doesn't recognize the impact that they have on you and your family, it's a tough dynamic to navigate. But I'll never blame her. My door is still always open, but now I know to proceed with the understanding that I can only do so much.
I think that you were a good friend to her. You did everything that you could. I mean, you gave and you gave and you gave and you showed up and you tried to help, even though it was like impacting your own life too. And you carried her pain with your own. And that's not something a selfish person would ever do. You can hold both truths at the same time, that you loved your friend and that stepping away was the healthiest decision that you could make for you and your family.
Yeah, and I'm going on 5 years of sobriety from many addictions. Is it 5 years? Yeah, it's been 5 years, including cigarettes. But I still taste the cigarettes I'd smoke when I used to stay up late worrying about her till this day. Like, I still remember all of the conversations we didn't have because of all the time she'd ghost me. I can still hear her laughs and cries, and it haunts me in the back of my mind all the time. And if I'm being real, I still feel the bitterness of having to sacrifice so much of my time all for nothing.
That's so valid, though.
But enough of that. Like, I just want to know, have you ever supported a friend where it is clear that they need to leave the relationship but wouldn't, no matter how much you try to help them?
So actually, I've been in that kind of relationship, and my friends kind of tried to help me. It wasn't physically abusive, but okay, basically to set the scene, right? I was once with this guy who at first he seemed really kind and really sweet, and like he did really a lot for me. And I think that was like really what um like I was really wowed by that because I struggled with my own self-worth, and I still kind of do. So him going out of his way for me and doing all those things for me was such a big deal for me. And in the beginning, he was so thoughtful. He'd bring me little surprises and he'd help me out when I needed it, and like would drive super long distances for me, and like basically he made me feel like I was the most important person in the whole world. And for a while, I thought I really found someone who valued me, but after a few months, things kind of started to change, and it wasn't obvious right away, but it kind of started to creep in little by little. I remember this one instance. Basically, like, naturally, I'm a social person. And one night I went to a party and I had a couple drinks and was having a good time being myself, talking to people,
Yeah.
mingling, that kind of thing. And I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary though. And somebody recorded me and posted a video of me at the party on their story. And it was no big deal because there was nothing out of the ordinary happening. I was just talking to some people. And so I showed the guy I was with at the time, and it like changed everything. It was crazy. We were in a car and he got out of the car and he punched a pole and he screamed at the top of his lungs, like in public,
Oh my gosh.
before storming back into the car. And then we sat in silence and my friend was there, and like we literally were so stunned. um yeah, and that moment really stuck with me because it really felt like a turning point. Because after that, the control started showing up in little ways. Like, he would tell me that I couldn't hang out with my guy friends unless he met them first. He started criticizing my clothes, saying he didn't want me to wear certain things. And
What?
yeah, it was, and like, I really did not like that. I, when I can't deal with control, it feels like, because authenticity to me is like really really important to me, and it just makes me feel like he went from, like, our relationship went from me cherishing him to him slowly stripping away my freedom and my confidence. And it was frustrating for me because, like I said earlier, authenticity means a lot to me. And with him chipping away my spirit with these kinds of things, it, like, honestly kind of pissed me off. Um, but also, it was complicated because he cared for me in a lot of different ways. And I felt like, since he cares for me in all these other ways, that I should just take it. And that, like, also that this control was his way of caring for me. But it didn't leave me feeling good. It left me feeling powerless. And I felt torn between wanting to fight and knowing that the choice to leave had to come from me. And no one could make this choice other than me. Like, even though my friends over and over again, like, tried to convince me, I just, in my head, I was like, no, but like, he cares about me, but he does all these things for me. But like, in the end, like, it needed to be me who, like, came to the realization of this control is too much. This control is taking away from who I am. And luckily, in the end, I made that choice for myself.
I'm so glad. Well, first, I want to say, like, you did not deserve to be put through that at all.
Thanks.
Yeah, and like, there's never a good reason for someone to react in those explosive ways, and
Mm.
also to chip away at your self-worth like that. And like, being controlling is just, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It really was.
Yeah, I'm glad you're out of that situation now. So I just, like, a follow-up question because I'm curious, like, how did your friends help you?
They just, like, over and over, like, I would go to them and like I they would basically have open ears and they would listen to everything that was going on, and I would basically see their reactions to everything, and not in like a judgmental way, but in like a oh honey, we care about you, why are you letting this man treat you this way, like in like the sweetest possible way.
You remember that one song by Pierce Vale? It was like "Stay Away from My Friends."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this situation just reminds me of that one song because it's so real. Like, stay away from my friends because I need them. Like
Yes,
when,
I
oh my
need
gosh,
them.
is this cringy? Is it cringy that I said that?
No.
But yeah, like w having a good support system, especially in those really, really toxic situations, helps you come to like the understanding like, hey, maybe things only look good because I have these rose colored glasses on, and I appreciate you guys for taking it off my face, or like at least trying to pry it off my face so I can see the
Exactly.
reality of it. And
Exactly.
it's like the subtle control is such like a manipulative way to get like the victim. I don't like to say the victim, the survivor, to get them away from their support system so that they are isolated, so that they are alone, so that no one's there to help them take off these rose colored glasses.
And I know that like these kinds of situations, they come in all kinds of like the situations look different for everybody. Like it's such a huge range, you know what I mean? It can be anywhere from like gaslighting and manipulation to like escalating to like physical violence. So there's like a huge range of what abuse can look like.
And that's all we can do sometimes. We can try to help our friends out of this hole that they're in by throwing down the rope, but if they don't cling to that rope or try to climb up themselves or believe that they deserve to be outside of this hole, there's unfortunately nothing we can do to take them out of the situation. But that's where the tricky part comes in. You clearly see them in this dark space and you want to help them, but what do you do? Do you abandon your life, go down into this dark hole with them, or do you move on?
So, this is the perfect spot to talk about something really important. How do we actually communicate with a friend who's in this type of situation? Because sometimes, even with the best intentions, we can come across as guilt tripping, comparing, or even shaming. And most of the time, it's unintentional.
Yes, and that's why I said earlier that I could have been a better friend to my friend because I didn't know how to support her. I didn't know what to do. She was coming to me with this huge issue, and it seems like no matter what I was doing, I was being met with the same problem over and over. So I was just running out of options. I was getting frustrated. And, but, like now that I'm reflecting back, I see how many things I could have done differently, how many approaches I could have taken. And I guess it's just me holding myself accountable to my or own shortcomings. But
And also, I mean, like, you learn and you grow as like time goes on, and like you learn from situations, and like you're not the same person now that you were back then.
oh no, not at all. Like if I cringe like deeply, so very deeply, and I'm pretty sure like 30 years from now, hold on, 10 years from now, 10 years from now, me listening to me talking right now, I'll also cringe.
I'm sure
Uh,
I will too.
but honestly, cringing is a big part of growth. If you're not cringing, then you haven't grown, and that's just my analogy on it.
It just means that like you didn't even try, you know? I mean, the fact
Right.
that we're cringing, it just means that we at least tried and we put ourselves out there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, they'll say things like such as, "Well, that's their choice,"
Like the
or
older generations.
yeah, like the older generation, like that's their choice, or it's not abuse unless he hits you. And that, they don't always know better, like the older generations, but those words can shut someone down so fast instead of opening up space for healing.
Exactly. I know that like that was the case for me too. Like where for a long time I was like, oh well maybe I should just like put up with this because like it's not abuse because he's
Hmm.
not like hitting me. He's not like, he's not like being physical with me, but like it still did not make me feel good. So basically, here's what you want to do instead. So, first, you want to hold space without judgment or pressure. Sometimes your friend doesn't need advice, they just need to be heard. I know that was the case for me. Like when my friends would listen to these situations and they'd be there for me while also talking with me about how this isn't okay and how it's impacting me, like that was really huge for me.
Yeah, definitely. Like just having that space to vent and talk, it feels really good. It's like a breath of fresh air. It's as if you've been holding your breath for such a long time. And when you finally let it out, it's just like, oh my gosh, yes.
I also feel like I'm a verbal processor and like by saying things out loud, sometimes I like process them better. So like when I'm talking to my friends, I'm like, "Oh yeah, maybe like I'll like hear myself talking and I'm like, "Oh yeah, maybe the way that he's treating me is not the greatest."
Yes, literally. Like you gotta talk it out sometimes. And I think like it's far more strong. Like a person is far stronger when they're able to be vulnerable with their feelings rather than
Mhm.
like maintain a facade of them being this incredibly strong person who doesn't feel any emotion or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like when people are able to be vulnerable with their life experiences, their feelings, I think that is a very, very strong sign of strength. But along with that, I'd also say that it's really important to also validate their feelings when they finally let that guard down, because it's really a lot to open up, especially if you're someone who's not used to like verbal processing. Like maybe like even if you think about the older generation, they were always told to basically shut up, don't feel anything.
Mhm.
So when they finally let their guard down, validate their feelings, because when people feel heard or seen, they're likely to see and hear themselves too. But in a way where they find that confidence to believe in themselves or trust in their abilities to walk away. And you can say some things like, that sounds really painful, or I can see how hard this is for you. And this all goes much further than saying, I told you so. You don't want to say those things.
For sure. And don't forget to be consistent, not conditional. Don't say, if you go back to them, I'm done, because that just mimics the control that they're already living under. It also puts them in a situation where they feel even more trapped. What they really need is someone steady, someone safe, someone who won't give up on them, even if they're not ready to walk away yet. I mean, that's really what my friends did for me was they were consistent and no matter
Hmm.
what, even though I know that like when they would hear these stories of me complaining about this guy, they of course it hurt them too, but they never ever ever gave me like an ultimatum of like if you leave him like we're done, because that would have just completely crushed me and then I would have felt even more dependent on my abuser.
Yeah, and I think that's where like the guilt comes in. Because the truth is, your friend doesn't need another person trying to control them. They need someone who shows up without adding pressure. So now, with that being said, let's talk about what you can do when you need to step back. Because like you could be there for them, but how do you pull back without feeling these feelings of guilt when you know like, okay, this is a boundary issue, things are getting too much, like I can't do this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so being a support system doesn't mean like you have to sacrifice your mental health or your peace just to protect them. And if their crisis starts to consume your life, it's okay to say, like, I love you and I need to protect my own energy too. Or I do understand how this phrasing can feel like a little nerve-wracking to say or to tell your friend, because naturally you don't want them to pull back away from you, but you shouldn't have to tiptoe around their feelings when setting boundaries. Yes, their safety and feelings matter, but so does yours. Like, how much more do you have to give someone who isn't willing to save themselves, right?
Exactly. Creating boundaries doesn't mean you're abandoning your friend, even if it feels like it. It means you're staying grounded so you can actually be the stable presence that they need. If you burn
Right.
out, you can't show up for them at all. And if they accuse you of not supporting them or abandoning them, first of all, wow. Second of all, you can gently remind them that I'm on your side, but I also have to take care of myself. That's not selfish, that's necessary.
Yeah, and I love that because at the end of the day, you can be safe, you can be a safe space without being a savior.
Mm-hmm. Healing doesn't happen on your timeline. It's not your job to fix or rescue or convince them. Your job is to love them without losing yourself in the process. And if you take nothing else from today's episode, let it be this: you can support your friend while also protecting yourself. Both of those things can be true at the same time. So, we have a few different resources to offer so that you don't have to support your friend alone, or if you're in a domestic violence relationship, you don't have to go through this alone. A good place to start is with the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They provide confidential support, offer safety planning, and referrals to local services. You can reach an agent by calling 1 800 799 SAFE or 7233 or by texting START to 88788 or chatting on their website, which is thehotline.org.
Yeah, and another great resource for survivors is the Office on Violence Against Women, or OVW, because they provide resources for survivors. Their mission is to provide federal leadership in developing the nation's capacity to reduce violence against women and administer justice for and strengthening services to victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. So on their website, they offer many resources to help survivors across the nation, and you can find their website justice.gov/OVW.
And lastly, there's the Women's Law Email Hotline. If you're searching for legal information related to domestic violence or sexual assault or stalking, you can contact an attorney on this website. We'll be sure to link these three websites below too. A few disclaimers though: they aren't able to provide legal advice or representation. They also can't contact you on the phone. Everything's going to be done through email. They just basically provide you information. Um, so their website is hotline.womenslaw.org/public. If you're in need of an email, you can usually create an email for free. A good place to start would be gmail.com.
Yes, and we recognize that supporting someone you love who has a problematic partner is incredibly difficult. We also understand that frustration comes from a place of love. But before we wrap up today's episode, we want to share a few affirmations you can tell yourself in these difficult dynamics. Something good to remind yourself would be, I can love and support my friend while also protecting my peace. Their healing is not my responsibility to carry alone.
I love that. Another one would be I am a safe and steady presence. I don't need to fix everything to make a difference.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I want to say one more for the road. I can offer compassion without judgment, patience without pressure, and love without losing myself.
Love can look like showing up for your friends during a moment of crisis, but love also means learning how to show up without losing yourself, which we understand is hard to balance. So if you're in this situation, remember that you can be a safe space without being a savior.
And you don't have to support your friend or friends alone. If you're in a DV relationship situation, no, you don't have to go through this alone either. And there's a way out. Our DMs are always open, and we're more than happy to help search for any resources needed or just offer a listening ear. You can find us on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook at Unwell and Unfiltered Podcast. But if you would like to find us on TikTok, we're real, unwell, and unfiltered.
So, next week, we'll be discussing a part two to this episode, but more focus on topics like jealousy, control, and manipulation in relationships. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Unwell and Unfiltered. Your support means the world to us. That's it for today. Thanks for listening to our unfiltered thoughts, and see you guys next time.